everyone. I'm Elena Armijo, and I'm the founder of the C-Suite Collective. This is a company I created for executive leadership coaching and wellness that supports C-suite executives, entrepreneurs, and founders. Now, more than ever, businesses are running faster and with fewer resources. Burnout, overwhelm, disconnection, and disillusionment are the new norm for teams struggling with an old paradigm. At the C-Suite Collective, we believe deeply that providing massive support for your teams through executive coaching and holistic practices will create an inclusive culture, higher levels of performance, sustainable change, and the organizational impact you desire. You can find us at the c-suitecollective.com. So what does being vulnerable mean? We'll look at that in our coaching tip for the week. And in our interview segment today, we have Blaine Heck. Blaine is a seasoned public relations pro who specializes in securing strategic placements that drive consumer engagement and multi-platform media attention. When I first signed on to work with Nardi Media, which was the media company that my private coaching business used last year, and what I used for the launch of the C-Suite Collective, I was quickly introduced to Blaine, who was my account manager. I have never felt so seen or heard in a public space, in a media space as I did with Blaine. She is really great at listening and connecting with humans all over the world, and also really great at placing you with people who are willing to engage in a robust, vulnerable conversation with you, which is really important for the conversation that Blaine and I had today. I hope you enjoy the episode, and remember, something powerful resides within you. I'm here to support you in seeing it and creating it. What does being vulnerable mean? So oftentimes I work with companies that ask me to train in vulnerability or courageous conversations. Some of this work stems from Brene Brown's Dare to Lead curriculum. And it's also leaders that are looking to create culture and connection from a kind, empathic approach. So the first thing we have to do is define what vulnerability actually means. The Oxford definition says that vulnerability is the quality or state of being exposed to the possibility of being attacked or harmed, either physically or emotionally. So that definition is scary, right? Why in the world would you want to risk being attacked or harmed? And the theory is that all connection, deep intimacy, is created through vulnerability. Brene Brown has another definition that I think takes a little bit of that fear factor out, although it's still pretty fearful, which is that vulnerability is uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. If you want to be heard and seen and create a culture of belonging, vulnerability is a beautiful place to start. Now, sometimes clients think that vulnerability means oversharing, like telling a long story about the date you went on last night, or sharing how worried you are about your son's test scores, or really breaking down and sharing how terrified you are at the state of the world. It doesn't necessarily mean those things, although there is a time and a space for those in a coaching setting or a therapeutic setting or even with friends. What it really means in the face of a company culture or in a leadership position is to be sharing things that you think will have impact and a point. For me recently, the conversation that you're about to hear in this podcast was sharing with my team at the C-Suite Collective that I was going through a second miscarriage. Now, as a leader, I have a choice. I could show up and, share exactly how I was feeling about every single detail, or I could share powerfully from a place of, I have grief, I have sadness in my space, and here's why I'm sharing it. That was the approach I decided to take, because in my mind, the more vulnerable I can be about sharing what's going on and continue to lead at the same time, the more space others have to do the same. So the first thing is to look at the definition and what comes up in yourself when you read that definition. The second thing is to look for places to practice being vulnerable to create more intimacy and connection in your life. If you need to start on a small gradient, start there, whether it's at home with your family or with friends, or if you're in a leadership position where you can practice at work. And the third thing is to notice after, what did it feel like to be vulnerable and be seen and either be supported or attacked? Just simply take note. The last thing I'll leave you with is the more you practice, the better you get at this. And the more that you allow vulnerable connection in your life, you're actually able to experience richer and deeper connections than you ever had before. But it will be scary, and sometimes people won't get it right with you. And that is the beautiful part of connection. Blaine, thank you so much for being here today. I just want to share, to start off with, my impression and my experience of you when I first met you.
Okay.
We are obviously we're partners and working together at Nardi Media. You were pretty much what I call my badass PR head of my account that really took care of me in the world of media for the first time. So the thing I love the most about you is that you're so direct, but you're also so loving, and your partnership ability was just like, this is going to sound weird, but it's like butter. It's like cookies and butter, because it was so malleable, and you were able to just meet me anywhere in my needs. You know, when I would say, hey, Blaine, what about this? Or I'm nervous about this, or I don't know if this is a good move. And you'd be like, okay, well, let's talk about it. And I don't find that level of partnership right off the bat in the world. So it just speaks to who you are. So
Thank
you so much for.
Thank you. I try to be honest, but compassionate, and also just understanding, and clients' needs. And I think there's a difference between you and I where, we just meshed also as friends, and it just worked out.
Yeah.
Yes, as humans. As working women. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. And I'm very excited to share more about the topic that we're talking about, which, we worked through so many things with news jumping and getting into the media around leadership and workplace culture and what's happening with the pandemic and all those things. And one of the topics that you and I often talked about was being a woman in the workplace and everything that we have to deal with body-wise, especially fertility and pregnancy.
Yep. It definitely came up a lot and still is.
Yeah. So thanks for being willing to talk about this today. And do you want to start by sharing a little bit of your story and your journey of where you're at?
Yeah, I would love to. Yeah. So my husband and I have been together. Oh my God, we're celebrating 10 years next week.
Congratulations.
And thanks. And, we always wanted kids, but we really waited. So I'll be 35. And, when the pandemic hit, we realized we were ready. And long story short, we both had some issues that kind of prevented us from getting pregnant naturally. It was a 0% chance. I mean, they said 1%, but hey,
wow.
Whatever.
1%. We talk about the 1% a lot.
1%. So, for anyone who understands fertility, our only shot of having a successful pregnancy was through IVF. And that took, we both just sat down and just said, okay, we kind of had a feeling something was up. I had some issues when I was 19 with a cyst, and we kind of prepared ourselves. So we navigated that. And I would say we started our journey in trying to get pregnant for 3 years. And last April was when we really started the journey, the testing, when we realized we needed it. So we did that. And then I'm trying to think of the time frame. I went through a surgery exactly a year ago to fix something, and that was easy breezy, really not a big deal. And from there, we started our first round of IVF Halloween of 2021. And that, was really challenging. That was the hardest 2 weeks, I would say, of my life, because nobody tells you the strain it takes on as a working woman. And I live I'm in Connecticut, so I live about 45 minutes to 50 minutes away from our clinic.
Wow.
So you're driving back and forth every morning. Lo and behold, though, it doesn't work. It didn't work. And we did not have a successful round. We found out on Thanksgiving. So we went right into another round, which was a blessing and a curse all at once. And we went into another round Christmas time. And this time I had to switch a lot of things. I had to drop some of my workload. They thought stress was a big part of it. Here we are as a working woman, and luckily it was Christmas time, so it was a little slower, but it was really challenging to only commit to a few hours a day and making sure my clients were met and their needs were met and loving what I do, right? So we that, and then making sure I'm not having caffeine and all that fun crap. So it worked. We had a successful round. We got 4 embryos. Only 2 were really good. The other 2 were So we went into a fresh transfer in mid-January, and then that failed as well. And from there, I said I needed a break. So we took a break. And I took a break for 3 months. I really wanted to take a break for 6. But some stuff came up, and my body really wasn't, some stuff was going on with my cycle. And our doctor said it's now, or you're probably going to have to wait until about a year. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. It was, it's just, if you're in the world of IVF, there's timings of when you have to do it, right? So it was like your cycle starts, and it's like, we weren't expecting that. And it's like, well, let's take it as a blessing. Let's do it. And we did it. And on May 6th, we found out it worked. And you're on hands on knees, right? You're just like, oh my God, like that's amazing. But it doesn't end. The fear, everything. It doesn't end. You're crying in emotions, but you're crying that just going and taking a walk is going to affect what your outcome was. You're on pins and needles I still am.
Well, congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
I'm very, very excited that you're about 20 weeks along currently. Yeah.
Yes.
And I so honor and appreciate your willingness to share the emotional component of it, because I think, first of all, in my experience, which I'll share more of in a second, not a lot of women are talking about this openly, or if we are, we're doing it in very small groups of our girlfriends. And there's still a culture of shame around it, I find, at least in my experience, around miscarriage in particular. And so I'm wondering, how have you gotten support for yourself along the way through this emotional roller coaster?
I love this question. In the beginning, I didn't, because I thought I was Superwoman, and I thought that, whatever, I can do it. It's not a big deal. But it's really hard to prick yourself 3 times a night. And it's really hard to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and drive to your clinic, right? And it's really hard a doctor to tell you, hey, this isn't working as well as we thought, right? So in the beginning, I didn't. I really leaned on my husband, who's been an absolute rock. I've leaned on my mom and my sister, but I realized in round 2, after that emotional roller coaster, because you go in thinking, when the doctor says, you're healthy, it should work, right? You think, great, I just have to do this for 2 weeks. I got it, right? But to think, and then to have that not work. Round 2, I did a lot of online searching for groups.
Beautiful.
And it was helpful. But the biggest help that I did for myself was I posted about it on my personal social media page. And that changed my life, because I know I couldn't, and I am not, like, you see my social, like, I'm not a very open person.
No.
I'm literally posting about my dog, or Chris and I, like, on a boat, just like enjoying a sunset. Like, I am not open. And I realized that I think it would help. And boy, did it. I was open to a community of former friends from high school, from college, people that I used to work with who DM'd me, I can't believe you're going through this as well. So am I. A lot of heartbreak, but also a lot of triumph, right? And so a lot of friends who have been through miscarriages, who were then going into other rounds, and it just made me realize I'm not alone, right? Because I didn't realize that some of these friends' kids were based off IVF. And, you know, it just, in the end, we still talk. I just started, you know, I've just told everyone that I'm pregnant, you know, after a surgery, 2 rounds and 3 transfers, it worked, right? And I still have some friends who it hasn't worked for, and my heart breaks, but I also know my chances were so low that I know if I can, they will, right? And they're 6 months behind me. So that community, normally social media scares me, but that community was pretty fantastic.
That's so brave, Blaine, because I'm over here thinking I would be terrified of, and I'm not terrified of sharing my journey. I don't think I've ever been terrified of that part, but, and I hear that for you too. You're pretty open about sharing where you're at. I think the thing that would terrify me the most is having all of that advice come your way when, you know, because that definitely happened. You know, Aaron and I lost our first baby in February of 2020, and we were about 7.5 weeks along, so not very far. But you know, we heard the heartbeat and gotten a little invested, and we're scared. You know, first time parents, of course, too. We were like, "Is this, you know, all the steps that you're talking about? You are on pins and needle all the time." And when we went through it first, I had made a choice, and he did not agree with this. You know, and this was actually a point of friction in our relationship. I had made a choice to share openly because I knew I was going to need support if something went south. And he had a more traditional approach where or maybe not even traditional, his preference was that he wants to keep things a little close until there is actually something that we're sure about. So we did our own version of this, right? And then when things did not end up happening for us, I was glad to have the support, but on the back end, there was a whole lot of advice that came my way that I wasn't ready for, wanting to hear, open to. And so when we're talking about social media, you know, I'm thinking like, would I ever want to do that again? And it's just so brave because it's like you got to take the gold with the mud too.
Yes.
Right?
You do. And you know, we're actually in a very similar situation with you and Aaron. You know, when I was going through the first round, or that second round is when I posted about it in January. And Chris kind of just sat me. I was like, I really need this. I think it will help other people. It wasn't about finding support. At first, it wasn't about finding support for me. It was about, holy crap, this is really hard. And there's got to be other people who are going through this who I hope I can help and start a conversation and just be that advocate. And he was okay with that. But he warned me about the trolls, right? Like that was his concern. And he did mention the advice too. And I never thought about it. And I was like, screw the trolls. Like if anyone's against IVF, because, you know, there are people who are against it and infertility, and that's, you think of your religious views, that's fine. But in my mind, I'm so not like that I know in my heart I could block it. I didn't get anything negative. You know, you do hashtags and you get random strangers. There was nothing bad, but what he was correct about was the advice.
Yeah.
And just like you said, and some of them were actually solicited advice that I actually welcomed. Some of it was, I'm just going to ignore you.
Yeah.
You know,
the whole I'm going to put that in a box over here.
Yeah. We're just going to move that over, and we're going to focus on the good. And I would say maybe there was like 2 or 3 people, but But for you, it's different, right? You have such a larger platform than me. So it was just really that inner circle. I just ignored it. And I'm preparing myself mentally on what to do here, because by the time this airs, I don't know, I may have posted, but I have not posted on social that I am pregnant, to give anyone an update of our journey. I do plan on doing it, but I was waiting. I'm 20 weeks. I'm halfway through, and we'll see. I think when the time is right, I'll know. I keep thinking it's this week, but we'll see. And I'm preparing myself for that same type of reactions, the positive with a little bit of that negative. So we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out, and we'll navigate the bad.
Yeah. Well, and I so appreciate you saying that, because for everybody, the reason we're having this conversation, I think, is to even start dialogues and hear different stories from people, which to me was tremendously supportive, to know, number one, I wasn't alone, but then I was shocked at how much is out there that we don't know, that people aren't sharing. And I sort of was like you, my first time I was pretending I was Superwoman, right? Like, this is all going to be fine and I can make this happen. So I'm going to just power through. And when we lost the baby, I did the same thing at work. I showed up and I let in rooms, and I showed up and worked with clients, and didn't share with my clients, but shared with some of my colleagues. And I remember it was, I think I needed to show up that way at that time. Otherwise I might have spiraled completely and just like gone away and, had horrible thoughts about myself. But I also know that it was a way to punish myself, right? By powering through at the same time. And so I'm curious about your journey in work. Like, what have you noticed about the way you're showing up in a work setting, and as a professional woman who's still working, going through all of this? Like, what are some of the gifts you've learned?
Oh gosh, I learned so much. I think the biggest thing I want to stress is that I'm lucky. As you know, I have an amazing team, a female team, who is in it every step of the way. So I actually was very similar to you. I told my boss, I told the people that what I was about to go through, because I knew it would affect my work. And I didn't want anyone to say, oh, Blaine's lacking. Like, what happened? What's going on? And I just wanted full transparency. And I think to myself, if I had males on my team, or if I was not in the situation I was in and I was in a corporate setting, would I do the same? And I would. I would. I don't think it would have been perceived as easily and as well. There's no way a male is going to understand what we're going through. But I am truly to the believer of transparency, right? And honesty. As you said, right? You said in the beginning, I'm an honest, open person. I'm just not myself if I'm not that way. And I have learned in this situation, honesty is the best form of success for me. It might not work for everybody, but for me, it does. And I have navigated that in those 2 rounds of working in between the holidays and doing all of the IVF stuff, which, by the way, a lot of people leave their jobs, which is so not fair. A lot of women have to leave their jobs for a month and take time to do it properly. Right. And I'm very, very blessed that I didn't have to do that. I would have done whatever I had to do, but I didn't have to do that. And so that stigma just bothers me, that women feel like they have to leave so they're not constantly judged for coming in late or going to all these appointments or feeling like crap, honestly, because there's a lot of hormones in you. But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing I've learned is honesty. And we'll get into this, I know, later, but honesty in other parts of, with disability and all that stuff has
Yeah.
been my best way of, it's hurt me, but also in the end, it's landed me to where I am right now. And I'm really
Yeah.
happy.
Well, and thanks for saying that, because I'm thinking about all the women who feel like they have to hide what they're going through, right? It's just, and also the same women that have to sneak away to still pump at some
Yes.
companies,
Yeah.
or the women that, I think I shared with you before we got on the call that we recently went through another miscarriage about 3 weeks ago. And this one was less shocking and devastating. I think it's that effect where you've been through it once, where, it's sort of, again, all the pins and needles, and didn't get our hopes up in the beginning this time, didn't share with many people, kept it really close in our inner circle. And this is actually the first time I'm sharing it publicly as well.
And thank you for doing that, because you're going to help a lot of people.
Well, thank you. I really felt that way the last time, is that I really want to get out of the shame of any of these conversations. And to me, the way to do that is to start talking about them and your experience around them. And I will say this time was very different for Erin and I, because we actually came together. And there were a lot of reasons in our relationship that, before, from fear, I created differently. And this time we allowed ourselves to lean into each other. And that was one of the best gifts this time. But I will say, I was leading teams again. I was still working. I was with clients. And I noticed this time I still chose to share what I was going through, but I had a little more facility with sharing why than I did before. So before, it was like righteousness, and I'm going to for the world, and I'm going to power through. And this time it was, no, this is actually something that's happening in my body. I need support. Thank you all for being here. And I want you all to know, especially with coaching clients, we have such intimate conversations that it's like, I want to share with them what's going on when appropriate, right? Like not taking away from their space. But what I noticed is I was able to have a different conversation around inclusion and belonging this time, and diversity. And through the lens of, if I'm the one that can still share what I'm going through, show up, have a conversation like that, in that lens of, hey, this is what is happening everywhere in the world. What other things are happening that we're not talking about, that we want to leave space and room for? And so one of the things that you and I were talking about was disability in the workplace. And I know you've had some personal experience with that. And this is just another form of what we're talking about, right?
Yep.
So what have you noticed in that arena? And how is that compared to, pregnancy and fertility?
Yeah, well, it's so similar, because disability and pregnancy kind of go hand in hand. I will say that the disabilities that I will say overcome, because I am a working woman, I am here, has affected me my entire life. With pregnancy and fertility, it's been a little easier based on where I work, because I have that amazing support system with my colleagues, and my openness. With my disability, and just, so everyone knows, I'm dyslexic and was diagnosed with a skew of other things when I was in second grade, I believe. And the disability of being dyslexic has probably hindered me the most, but I have definitely grown out of it a little bit. It used to be pretty bad. It has affected me. I've lost jobs from it. I when I was in fifth grade, I'll never forget, I was going through my IEP process again to go into middle school, and the counselor was like, Blaine's great. She's so sweet. Let's just do our best to just try to get her into a community college. And in some form of saying that. And I just remember looking at my mom and being like, I don't want to go to community college. I want to go to college. I there's nothing wrong with community college, but I had dreams to go away and have that college experience. And I kind of put that in my head. And I think I let the disability in my middle school years kind of just be like, well, I'm not smart enough. Yeah, well, I'm not going to do much. And I quickly fixed that. My mom got me the support I needed. But boy, my disability has affected me through not just school. It has affected me in my career. And I'm grateful that I graduated from high school pretty normal, not below, I wasn't the smartest kid in the class, but I got into the University of Arizona and I went there and was able to navigate it, but it didn't come without challenges. When I got into the workforce, I lost my first job out of college about a year in. I wasn't happy, but I was happy to have been there for a year. I was just starting to look elsewhere. And I lost my job because I messed up counting some sort of buying thing we were doing. And it was a pretty big mess up, but it wasn't awful. It was my first time. She pulled me aside and was like, I don't understand how this happened. And I basically I started to be open. And I said, I'm so sorry. It won't happen again. I took this job not realizing the amount of math involved in it. I'm in PR. I'm not sure how all this math ended up happening. And
Yeah.
I said, I'm dyslexic. So, I'm just going to have to really double check my work. And I was fired 2 days later.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah, I was fired. I was too much of a liability.
Wow.
For their buying purposes. It was a fashion brand. And my dad was just like, I was with my now husband too at the time, and both of them were very similar, like don't worry about it, like pick yourself up, but it really got me.
Yeah.
And it really messed me up. But fast forward now, it has made me stronger. I did lose one other job, halfway through my career to elsewhere where they said that the creativity wasn't there. Meanwhile, I just felt lost in it and I felt my brain was not in it. And it really wasn't until I went freelance where I realized I had a really successful career at Bauer. I was really great there. It was exactly my niche. It was that type of PR I really wanted, which is kind of what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
And I left to better my career, and leaving to better my career, I went into a niche that wasn't right for me. And so here I am. I've lost 2 jobs, but I've been in freelance for 5 years, and I have never been happier.
You found your spot. Yeah.
I found my spot, but I also just never let anything get in the way of what I wanted to do. Did I pick a communications field because I'm scared of dealing with numbers? I did. I absolutely did. I struggled. I actually failed my Italian classes in college because English is hard enough for someone who's dyslexic. So put another language on top of them.
Yeah.
It's a whole other ball game.
Yeah.
And so I am going to be 35 years old, and I finally, with the help of an amazing husband who has made me feel I am worthy, and the work of actually therapy, like good therapy, I think I'm really good at my job, and I finally feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Finally, at
what
35.
An incredible story.
Yeah. Actually, another crazy story is when I was in high school, I was in the small classes growing up for the IEPs, and I was like, enough. I don't want to be in these small classes. I was bullied a lot, and I had my group of friends that understood that were in similar situations, but it bothered me. I was determined to get out. I went into a regular algebra class junior year of high school. I failed the first semester, and I said, I'm not going back in. I got an A the next semester. And that was my college paper. Now, did it take me triple as long to get that A because I had to work double hard than anybody else? Yeah, I did. But I proved to myself that you're not stupid, right? You learn differently.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, and what would you say to employers who are wanting to work with people around disabilities, especially dyslexia? Like if you could go back to those employers and offer them some advice on this side of the table, what would you have for those leaders?
Be open to people's disabilities. People like us are actually more creative than I think they realize, right? So just because we're dyslexic or have any other learning disability that's out there, ADD, ADHD, whatever it is, comes in a heightened awareness elsewhere, right? And that heightened awareness has allowed me to become successful in the field of PR. Be open-minded. Don't be judgmental, and realize actually it could be a good thing.
Yeah. And I'm hearing that even for schools and when we start young, when we start diagnosing all this stuff, for me, same thing. I had a speech impediment when I was growing up. I have a little bit of dyslexia, but I don't think it's officially enough to be diagnosed. And all I've ever thought about is, what if there was so much more compassion for this not being abnormal, but it just being unique and diverse and growing the gifts of it, as opposed to fixing the problem that exists, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important to not judge other people based on what is happening. And, it's been such a long road and a long journey in so many ways that I truly believe that if you are a person struggling or you have a disorder and you want to be open about it, I know that there's a lot of fear there, and we can get in. There's a whole other topic about being upfront in the beginning or being upfront later on because you're nervous you're not going to get it. I hope that employers are realizing how beautiful we are. Everyone has something. Everyone has something going on. Everyone has some sort of little issue or big issue. And we are all creative in our own ways. And we can really be beneficial. Just because I see an M and an N at the same way doesn't mean that I can't be a badass in that boardroom. I'm 100%. Telling you right now.
Which you are. You proved that many times in the rooms you were in with me. I was like, dang, I definitely want her on my team. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I think the last question I have for you is, I ask every guest, if you had one thing you wanted to say to the world going into the next year for, encouragement, and maybe based on our topic today, it's women going through their journey with becoming moms. What would you say?
It's going to sound so cliche. Just don't give up. Don't let you trying to become a mother and your career get in the way. You can do both. Don't let anybody say you can't. And if someone does, then push them aside and move on to somebody else who's going to actually hear you and believe you. It's something that if you were to tell me this time last year I'd be in this position, I dreamed, to be in this position. Yes, but I had no idea the obstacles I was going to face in that year. And if I wasn't open about those obstacles, I don't think I'd be here in this situation. So push through. You can have it all. There's so many people that say you can't. You can. And there's resources and
support. Yeah.
And support. Yeah. And I'm on a mission to try to actually do a little side thing where I start a support women's group. It's just something I realized was actually very needed when I opened up on social media. And I really hope that this year I can get it sorted because, even to be a new mom and navigating breastfeeding and navigating meetings and having, I don't know how I'm going to navigate all that, but I'm excited to try. And I would hate for any woman to be nervous to navigate any fear, right? And so if something seems scary, that means it's probably a good decision to try doing it.
That's where the coaches live, in the fear and the unknown. So
Yes.
oh my gosh. Blaine, thank you so much for your gold and your wisdom and your heart and your vulnerability and being willing to share your journey and what you're going through, even while you're still going through it, right?
Yeah,
It doesn't
yeah.
stop. So
And
I
thank
so
you
appreciate you.
too. I love you, and you just helped a lot of people too. You did.
I love you very much. Thank you.
Love you. Thank you.
If this conversation sparks something for you, let it move through your week. Take it with you. Take on one small action to move the ball forward. And if you want to join our community of leaders who are daring to lead with courage and heart, you can find that at www.elenaarmijo.com or www.thec-suitecollective.com. I reserve a small number of complimentary 20-minute sessions for leaders who want clarity on what they need and insight into what is getting in the way. The practical next steps that create real movement and results in your leadership journey. So you can schedule a call through the link below. It's in the description. Like, subscribe. Thank you for listening, for showing up, and for doing the work of being human together.